Right, let's get started on this tree here. First place to start is the trunk. One thing that I can see, or that I've noticed, is under this tree here. This sort of bush or tree is sitting behind this one that I'm going to put over the top. So I don't need to show it all, but there's a darker area that is a bit more obvious. Sort of here. Now, before I do this tree, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some just little marks just so that I can see exactly where the tree is going to be. It's not particularly big, but I don't want the marks to be too in fact, I think that trunk should have been over this way a bit more, but we won't worry about it too much. Probably doesn't come much higher than about that. Sort of like that. In fact, that tree trunk definitely should have been over there a bit more, so what I'll do is I'll just bring off another trunk just to sort of make it look a bit less lopsided. Just sort of coming in from this area. The trick is, when doing these branches, is to get the branches or the tips of these branches as small as you possibly can. So to do that, you need to have a new brush really. The newer the better. You need to be mixing your paint with a thinner rather than something like a liquid. You can't quite get it thin enough with liquid. And you need a very steady hand, and you just want to be using the very, very tip of the brush. And that way you should get very thin lines. Also, you don't want too much paint on your brush either. When I put the brush into the paint, I'm only putting the tip in. Now, although the sky paint's not fully dry, it's not really affecting too much these twigs that I'm putting over the top. And the reason for that is because the paint that I'm putting on here has been thinned down to such a point that it's sitting on top of the sticky undercoat. And also I'm using a soft brush. So if you were trying to paint over the top of that with a bigger, harder brush, well, you'd never be able to do it without disturbing what's underneath. Now the tree is sort of kind of, I mean, although I'm doing all the twigs and branches and things with this brush, it's a lot fuller than I'm painting it at the moment, so I need to fill it in a little bit more. And I'm going to do that in a second with another brush, which I shall show you. Let's do that now, just to show you. Okay, so what I've got here is actually, it's a tree and a texture brush. There you go. And that's pretty much what it looks like. You see, it's got a bit of a chamfered edge there. So what you do is you put that against the picture and you're sort of pushing down on it like that, which gives you the right effect. Let's see if I can do that for you. This just gives you a sort of a bit of a furry look. Now once again, got to be careful with the underpainting or the sky underneath. So what's happening here, I'm using that paint, I'm putting this on dry, and what that's given you is, well, when I say dry, I mean it's not mixed with liquid or anything like that, and it gives you more of a sort of a furry look. I don't want it quite like that, so I'm going to mix it with a little bit of liquid, and that should separate the hairs a little bit more and give you more of a sort of a spotty look. The more I mix that with a different medium, a flowing medium, the more that's going to separate and give you more of a spot rather than a furry look. There, see, that's perfect. See, that's much closer to the look that we're after. It's more of a sort of a spot. I mean, I think what you probably have is some leaves still on the tree. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't. It'd be more like that furry look, because obviously you can't paint, especially from this distance, you can't paint every single leaf or twig. So doing it en masse like this is probably the only way you can really do it properly. That's good, isn't it? It's quite an effective way of doing it. It's a fairly quick way of doing it as well. And I can pretty much go over the whole tree now like that. Making sure that I'm using enough liquid to make it look right. Okay, so I'm now using the corner of this fan brush, using neat paint so it hasn't been mixed with any thinner. And I'm going to just stipple that on with the corner of this